I stood by my husband through everything, but what I discovered at his hospital bedside changed everything. When my husband Michael was rushed to the hospital after a sudden collapse at work, I didn't think twice. I left everything behind to be by his side, holding his hand, whispering that he was going to be fine, because that's what you do when you love someone. You show up no matter what. The doctor said he would need a few days of rest and observation, so I stayed there day and night, sleeping in the chair beside his bed, feeding him soup, keeping his phone charged, doing everything to make sure he knew he wasn't alone, and I thought my devotion meant something to him. But one night while he was asleep, his phone buzzed on the table. I almost ignored it, until I saw the name flashing on the screen, Love of My Life. My stomach twisted, but I picked it up, needing to know who it was. A woman's voice whispered on the other end, "I'm outside, can I come in without your wife seeing me?" I felt the blood drain from my face, my hand tightening on the phone as I asked who she was. There was silence. Then the line went dead, and I walked to the window just in time to see a woman standing under the streetlight, holding flowers, looking up at his room with tears in her eyes. In that moment I realized this wasn't just betrayal, it was something deeper, something he had been hiding for far longer than I could imagine. And as I sat back down in that chair, staring at his sleeping face, I knew one thing. By the time he walked out of this hospital, his life would never look the same again. The next morning, while he was still asleep, I went through his phone, not rushing but scrolling with the steady hands of someone ready to face whatever truth came. And there it was, months of messages, photos and videos, all of them with her, trips to places he told me he went for work, dinners at restaurants we'd once called ours, gifts he claimed he couldn't afford for me but somehow found for her. She wasn't just some fling, she was a second life. And I was the woman funding it without knowing. Every payment for their hotel stays, every gift, every bill was traced back to accounts I helped fill. I didn't cry, not yet, because I knew tears would give him too much power. Instead I spent the next 2 days pretending nothing had changed, feeding him, fluffing his pillow, listening to him talk about how grateful he was to have me. All while I moved our money, transferred the house deed into my name alone, and sent legal documents to his office removing him from the company we built together. On the day of his discharge, I wheeled him out of the hospital myself, smiling like the perfect wife. But when we reached the car, I handed him an envelope. Inside were the printed photos and bank statements, along with the divorce papers. His face went pale as I leaned down and whispered, "You lied in sickness and in health, so I took the for richer part and left you with the rest." Then I closed the door and drove away, leaving him standing in the parking lot with nothing but the flowers she had brought, wilted and useless, just like his promises. 4 days after, my phone didn't stop ringing. Every call from him came with a new tone. At first it was anger, demanding to know how I could do this to him, as if I was the one who betrayed our vows. Then came the pleading voice, trembling as he told me I had misunderstood, that she meant nothing, that he was confused and didn't want to lose everything we built. But the more he talked, the more I heard the fear in his voice wasn't about losing me. It was about losing the money, the house, the company, the image he'd carefully crafted for years. One night he showed up at my door, his suit wrinkled, his eyes tired, holding the same wilted flowers I'd left him with at the hospital. "Please," he said, "we can work through this, we've been through worse." And that was when I laughed, not because it was funny but because it was pathetic. I stepped outside, closing the door behind me so he couldn't see the warmth of my home anymore, and I told him, "You didn't just break my trust, you buried it. And I don't dig up what's dead." He stood there in silence, like he didn't know whether to beg again or walk away, but before he could speak I added, "And the next time you call me, make sure it's through your lawyer." Then I turned, walked back inside and let the lock click shut. His voice calling my name fading into nothing, just like the man I once thought he was. A week later, word got back to me that the mistress had left him. Not because she suddenly grew a conscience, but because the money was gone. Once she realized he no longer had the house, the company, or the steady flow of cash, she started looking for someone else to take care of her. Before she walked out, she drained the last of his personal savings, took the car he'd bought her, and left him with overdue bills in her name. She even told mutual acquaintances, "Why would I stay with a man who can't provide?" By the time I ran into him at the grocery store, he was pushing a cart with only a few items, wearing clothes that looked like they hadn't been washed in weeks. He saw me, froze, and for a second looked like he might cry. I didn't stop. I didn't speak. I just walked past him like he'd never existed. Because in my mind he hadn't, not the man I thought I married anyway. That man died the moment he chose betrayal over loyalty. No. He was left with nothing but the memory of the life he lost. And the knowledge that I was the one who took it from him. Betrayal reveals more about them than you. Someone's choice to deceive says nothing about your worth and everything about their character. Money exposes loyalty. People who stay only when there's something to gain were never truly there for you. Thanks for watching. Don't forget to like, share, comment, and subscribe for more powerful stories.